Ferrari just told the FIA it is changing 5 things on the floor of the SF26 at once. That is the official number, on paper, for this weekend at Zandvoort. The floor body, the floorboard, the floor edge, the diffuser, and the beam wing. 5 areas declared together in the technical update document the FIA publishes before every race. Most teams change one thing at a time. Ferrari changed 5 and did it on the car that is chasing Mercedes in both championships with half the season still to run. Here is what the FIA's own declaration says the changes are for. The stated aim is a broad increase in aerodynamic load across the whole operating range of the car, along with steadier airflow feeding into the diffuser at the back. That is the official language, and it is worth sitting with for a second because it is not a small tweak. It is a claim that the floor behaves better everywhere, not just in one corner or one gear. This is not Ferrari's first swing at this floor either. It is the third SF26 upgrade package of the season, and according to Paolo Filisetti, the technical writer at Gazzetta dello Sport, in a report published 4 days before this race, it is a direct evolution of the specification Ferrari introduced back in Barcelona. That was the floor under the car when Hamilton won his first race in red. I want to be clear that this next part is Filisetti's reporting, not an FIA document. He says the Zandvoort package was not originally planned to arrive this early. Ferrari, according to his account, looked at how the car performed in Austria against how it performed in Britain, found daylight between those two results, and decided the Barcelona concept had more left in it than expected. Whether that account is complete, I cannot confirm independently. What I can tell you is what happened next, because that part is public. Ferrari finished the design and production work before the mandatory summer shutdown, which meant the parts were ready the moment the factory reopened. So that is the setup. 5 declared changes, an evolution of a winning floor, and a car second in the Drivers' Championship, trying to close a gap in the Constructors' fight. Hold that number 5, because by the end of this video, it stops being a count on a form and starts being a physical description of where the air actually goes under this car. Before we get to any of that, subscribe if you want the next one, because it is a companion piece to this. Ferrari's next real step is not here, it is at Monza, where the team is expected to bring its second permitted power unit development, reportedly built around a turbine with a larger diameter impeller aimed at straight-line performance. I will be doing the full breakdown of that engine update once it is declared, and while you are here, tell me where you are watching from. This channel somehow ends up in more countries than most of the paddock, and I want to know how far this floor conversation is travelling. Now, the part that actually matters is not the count of 5, it is the limit those 5 changes have to live inside. This is where the FIA's paperwork stops and the regulation begins. The floor of a current Formula 1 car is not one free shape a team can sculpt however it likes. It is built around defined reference volumes and reference surfaces, laid out article by article in the technical regulations. And the floor body and floorboard sit inside a section of that document specifically written to constrain them. That section is Article 3.18.7. It exists precisely because the floor is the single biggest source of downforce on these cars, so the FIA writes down, in exact geometric terms, what a floor is allowed to be. 2 details from that same section of the regulations are worth knowing, because they show how tightly this is controlled. The plank and skid material under the floor has a minimum cross-sectional thickness requirement, so a team cannot simply thin the underside to save weight or change airflow. And where the floor body meets the main floor, teams are only permitted a filler radius up to a defined maximum. So even the curve of that joint is regulated, not left to a designer's preference. When you see a report saying Ferrari revised the floor edge, the floorboard, and the floor body, what actually happened is that Ferrari's engineers reshaped the car within the boundaries that article draws, not outside them. That is the whole difference between an upgrade and a breach, and it is written down, not a matter of opinion. So here is what the part actually does. Think of the floor edge as the seal around the bottom of a vacuum cleaner head. If that seal is loose, air leaks in from the side, the vacuum loses suction, and the whole thing works less well. The floor edge on an F1 car does the same job for the low-pressure area building up underneath the car. Ferrari's reported changes include cutting away more material from the lower part of a vertical element near that edge and shortening its inner foot, plus lowering the inner mounting point of the floor support stay. Follow the air for a second. Air trying to escape sideways from underneath the floor meets that reshaped edge first. A tighter, better managed seal there means less air spills out sideways and more of it stays working underneath the car, building load before it exits through the diffuser at the back. That is the mechanism. It is not mysterious, it is closer to good sealing than to magic. Is that mechanism actually new, or did rivals already try this? Did anyone else touch their floor edge this weekend? McLaren did not. They focused on the rear of the car instead. Did anyone bring more changes than Ferrari? Yes, Alpine did, with 8 separate revisions covering the floor, bodywork and rear end, the largest package declared for this race. Did the 2 low-scoring teams, Mercedes and Red Bull, change their floors at all? No. Both declared a single front corner update apiece, and neither one was chasing raw load, they were chasing reliability. Which brings us to the car show that puts Ferrari's approach in real context. Mercedes leads the Constructors' Championship, and this weekend it declared exactly one modification, a revised front corner aimed at improving how air conditions flow to the rear of the car. Red Bull, sitting well back in that same championship, also declared exactly one change, and its own document states the goal plainly: to reduce load on a wheel assembly component at high steering angles for reliability, not performance. Same regulatory freedom, same FIA declaration process, same weekend. One team leading the championship treated this as a small refinement. One team, trying to catch up, treated it as 5 interconnected changes to the biggest downforce generator on the car. Same rulebook, completely different bet. Now the part that changes everything downstream of the floor, because a floor does not work alone. A revised floor edge and a tighter seal change how much energy the air carries by the time it reaches the diffuser, and the diffuser is what turns that trapped air back into usable load as it expands and exits under the car. Ferrari also revised the diffuser's expansion and geometry this weekend, specifically to make use of that improved airflow, and made a minor adjustment to the lower beam wing to match. None of those 3 changes function properly without the other 2. Revise the floor edge alone, and you have improved the seal, but not given the diffuser anything extra to work with. Revise the diffuser alone, and you risk asking it to process air that never arrives in good condition. That is why the FIA's declaration lists floor body, floorboard, floor edge, diffuser, and beam wing together as one coordinated update, rather than as 5 separate line items that happen to share a submission date. And this is where a floor change stops being free. More load at the front of the floor and better sealed edges typically means the car's ride height sensitivity increases, because ground effect floors generate load in a way that is highly responsive to exactly how far the floor sits from the track surface. Zandvoort's banked corners at turns 3 and 14 load the car vertically in a way few other circuits do, and its surface carries drifting sand that can change grip levels mid-session. A floor tuned to maximise load in clean, stable conditions can become harder to keep in its intended operating window when the track surface itself is inconsistent. That trade-off does not show up anywhere in the FIA's technical declaration. It only shows up on Sunday in how the car actually behaves, which is exactly why Ferrari did not put this floor on the car for opening practice. The team ran the previous specification instead, and the stated reason was the threat of rain. On a sprint weekend, teams get exactly 1 free practice session before Parc Fermé rules lock the car's setup for the rest of the event, so there is no second chance to sort out a new floor if it behaves unexpectedly in changeable conditions. Ferrari chose not to spend that single session learning a new part in unpredictable weather. Here is the number that was hanging over all of this: 5 changes to a floor. Ferrari has not yet raced this weekend. In that first session with the old specification, Kimi Antonelli topped the times. Hamilton was 4th, 190 thousandths of a second back, and Leclerc was 5th, 289 thousandths back. Those numbers say nothing about the new floor, because the new floor was not on the car. That is the honest state of this story right now, and I am not going to dress that up as more than it is. If I had to guess, and I could be wrong here, my read is that Ferrari fits the new floor for the sprint or the race itself once the rain risk clears. And if the mechanism I just walked through is doing what the FIA's declaration says it should, the gap to Antonelli should shrink rather than grow. We will know by the time the checkered flag falls on Sunday whether that red holds up, and if it does not, I will say so in the next video. Best argument against all of this mattering much. It is possible that 5 changes declared on paper produce a result too small to separate from ordinary session to session variation, especially on a circuit this sensitive to wind and sand. That is a fair point, and it happens more often in this sport than upgrade hype ever admits. But strip away everything else and this is the actual story. The floor edge got tighter, the diffuser got reshaped to use what that tighter edge delivers, and the whole package sits inside the exact geometric limits Article 3.18.7 allows. Nothing more, nothing less. 5 declared changes, 1 regulation, and a car that has not even raced with the part yet. Ferrari's real test after this one is at Monza, where the ADU02 engine step is expected, and I will be pulling that document apart the same way the moment it is declared. If this kind of breakdown is useful to you, hit like and I will see you for that one. Legal loophole or straightforward legal development? Tell me which one you think this is in the comments. Until the next one.